you're watching Gravitas. I'm Sana Khan. In recent weeks, in the run-up to the festival of Pongal, the media has been dominated by discussions about the Supreme Court ban on Jallikattu, the ancient Tamil sport of bull taming that is associated with the harvest festival. The issue has become a cornerstone of Tamil nationalist pride, with the Chief Minister of the state encouraging people to flout the law and carry on with the sport. Is the ban justified? Critics of the practice can be found inside bullfighting's heartlands, not just there, but world over. The centre is now mulling an ordinance on the issue as well, so that Jallikattu is allowed on Pongal. We will be talking about the controversy over the next few minutes, but first, let's take a look at this report on the recent developments in Tamil Nadu.
The bulls were back on Friday at the epicenter of Jallikattu in southern Tamil Nadu. A defiant show by supporters of the bull taming festival in this village in Madurai, a day after India's apex court rejected a plea to allow the centuries-old sport. The organizers are now making arrangements for another form of bull taming sport called Manju Virattu, despite the objections by the authorities. Elsewhere in the state, politics over the issue is heating up. The DMK is demanding that the centre bring out an ordinance.
When Honorable Karunanidhi was the Chief Minister, even then there were issues raised for Jallikattu. There was a ban even then. The Supreme Court refused to allow the event. But the way our leader handled the issue, the Supreme Court came up with certain measures and allowed Jallikattu. And so, in our days in power, we had always ensured that Jallikattu happened every year.
The DMK targeted both the AIA-DMK government in the state as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi as it staged protests against the Supreme Court order. Animal rights activists are, however, outraged and demanding strict enforcement of the ban. They say any such ordinance would be an unconstitutional misuse of power.
Mahatma Gandhi said that the moral progress of any country is known by the way its animals are treated. So we need to follow the footsteps of Mahatma Gandhi, not follow a culture blindly which tortures, kills, injures an animal and also humans.
Animal rights activists have written to the president asking him to block any move to allow Jallikattu this Pongal. After the Supreme Court, it may now soon be the president who may have to take a call on resolving this culture versus cruelty dilemma. Manoj Kevalramani, WION.
All right, first up, let me go across to my colleague Nishchita Virendra. She is joining me live from Madurai on the very latest that's been happening there. Nishchita, if I can ask you, what's the latest, what's the mood at this point on the ground? Because Pongal festivities, Jallikattu, synonymous. And with the recent goings on, what's the mood like?
Well, at the moment, people are still enraged with the decision of the Supreme Court to not lift the ban on Jallikattu celebrations. On the other hand, we also understand that the people are not pleased with the Modi government for not passing the ordinance, something that was sought by not just the Chief Minister, O. Selvam, but also the General Secretary of AIA-DMK, Sasikala. Now, we understand that the local residents are deciding to go ahead with the festivities sport going against the Supreme Court order, and they are even courting arrest.
Right, Nishchita. Now, we are also hearing some media reports talking about the government bringing about an ordinance, so that Jallikattu can be, it can be played or it can be carried out during Pongal festivities this time. What's the latest? Are you hearing anything about that?
Well, so far, I did receive reports, even the local channels are flashing that probably the central government could be looking at passing an ordinance, thereby permitting for bulls to be used for Jallikattu as a sport as well as an entertainment. This report as yet, and on the other hand, the local channels flashing it has not really penetrated into the remote areas of Tamil Nadu and especially Madurai, where these local residents are still deciding to go ahead and protest tomorrow morning.
Also, Nishtita, very quickly, one last question to you. Now, there are a lot of South Indian stars who are protesting this move, in fact, or this Supreme Court judgment. They're saying against the ban, and they're big names, including stars like Kamal Hassan, G.V. Prakash as well, Khushbu Sundar as well. Give us a sense of, the split or the divide that we've seen in Tamil Nadu over Jallikattu.
Well, as far as Jallikattu is concerned, it seems like it's almost a unanimous cry from across Tamil Nadu to want this sport to be conducted, whether it is the Congress, whether it is the BJP, or whether it's the AIADMK or the DMK. All four parties have really spoken for Jallikattu, and there doesn't seem to be any divide among the people as well, whether it is noted personalities in the form of literateurs, or whether it is in the judiciary, or whether we are seeing people from the entertainment film industry, as you pointed out. All of them are going on to state that Jallikattu is part of their tradition. It has lasted for thousands of years, and because there was certain discrepancies noted in the way these bulls were treated during the festivities, there is the tradition itself, while a few of them argue that by banning Jallikattu, they will be essentially leading to wiping out of the Indian breeds of bulls. There are already few in number in Tamil Nadu, but on the other hand, many of them also feel that by wiping out this tradition, they will have to go in for artificial insemination of their cows in the future.
All right. Thanks so much, Nishtita, for joining us with the very latest there from Madurai on the developments taking place on the ground. In fact, we're also hearing reports as we were talking about an ordinance that the government may now pass to allow Jallikattu to take place during Pongal. Raghavendra Rao, in fact, joins me live from the newsroom for more details on this. Raghavendra, what's the latest?
Our sources are telling us that the central government is all set to bring in an ordinance so as to allow Jallikattu to be conducted in Tamil Nadu. Mind you, this has been a demand which has been raised by Tamil Nadu residents, political parties, and all the people from there. And the Pongal festivities begin from tomorrow, and they are really keen that this be allowed, despite the Supreme Court ban. Supreme Court has refused to lift the stay on the matter, and the central government has been realizing that some resentment has been brewing in Tamil Nadu against the central government for having not brought out this ordinance so far. Our sources in the government are now telling us that the government finally is of the view that bringing in an ordinance at this stage is possible, and they would want to do it so as to allow the conduct of Jallikattu starting tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much, Raghavendra, for joining us. So things might change here if this ordinance comes through. Remember, there is a procedure. The ordinance will go through various steps. And once it is passed, then we can, see that things will change as far as the way Pongal is celebrated in Tamil Nadu is concerned, because till now the Supreme Court has banned Jallikattu. All right, let's take this forward. Joining me in the studio is Jasmine Damkiwala. She's a Supreme Court advocate, also an animal rights activist. Also joining me from Chennai are Mr. G.V. Prakash, actor, singer and music composer, and Mohan Raman, actor and film historian. Thank you, all of you, for joining me. If I can start by asking you, Ms. Damkiwala, give us a sense of how does this procedure work? Now we're hearing reports that the government is to issue an ordinance. What next? What are the procedures like?
See, the procedure is this, that if an ordinance is issued, the Supreme Court in any case has consistently from 2014 onwards banned Jallikattu. In 2014, the Tamil Nadu regulation for Jallikattu was struck down. The notification in favor of which held that Jallikattu is basically against the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, that was upheld. Thereafter, again in 2016, another notification came up. The 2011 notification is now sought to be diluted in 2016 by a fresh notification saying that though bulls are not supposed to be performing animals, Jallikattu can be permitted. Now, that notification again was stayed by the Honorable Supreme Court, and the matter is now pending. So, what happens is, even if a new ordinance or notification comes out, that will eventually have to stand the test of the honorable courts, because that would definitely be challenged. It is against the parent judgment of Nagaraja in 2014 and thereafter the subsequent rulings. The Honorable Supreme Court in 14 had specifically said that animal rights fall under a part of Article 21 of the Constitution, which gives you a right to life. So, right to life does not mean life alone. It means all those facets of life, including a normal environment. A normal environment would also entail animals not to be treated cruelly, the right to life of animals, and that cruelty should not be inflicted upon animals in the name of tradition or religion or
sport,
culture or
right,
whatever.
Right. So now the question is, how does this ordinance, how is an ordinance issued? If you were to understand the steps and procedures of that, the centre is talking about it. Pongal festivities will be on specific dates on which Jallikattu is performed or observed. So how does it work from here? No? Because time is running out. Can the government at this very last moment issue this ordinance? How will that be?
See, the government can issue an ordinance, but since the festival is supposed to be now starting, it is a little too late in the day. So, we do not expect that ordinance, even if it comes through, we do not expect it has to go through various stages. Even if it goes through various stages, we do not expect it to run through. And we have heard, in fact, heard reports that the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has said that he will violate any orders of the honourable courts. So, that will all be subject to court procedure.
Right. A lot of politics at play here as well. In fact, let me go across to Mr. G.V. Prakash, who joins me at this point from Chennai. Sir, how would you explain the strong protest that we're seeing in Tamil Nadu and this discussion on Jallikattu at various forums in media and other places as well?
Actually, see, our culture is like really old. Tamil is like one of the most precious and old culture of in the world, in the whole world. So I feel, it's like taking away the identity of the language and the culture and the practice we've been following. And hurting the animals is actually a misconception, because it is not like a bullfight in Mexico or your other countries.
All right, Prakash, do stay with me. If I can go across quickly to Mr. Mohan Raman. Sir, the Supreme Court ban that we've seen all these years was mainly because of animal cruelty. Now, it took a turn for interference in Tamil Nadu culture. Give us a sense of what you think is happening at this point.
The Supreme Court was faced with a petition which spoke about animals suffering or cruelty to animals. So they have passed an order only on that. The Supreme Court was not asked to decide whether this is a socio-cultural event, whether it has got ethos from our ancient scriptures here in Tamil, whether they were not asked to judge on that. So why blame the Supreme Court? I only have, going a little further onto why Tamils should get hurt. Tamils will get hurt. I will ask you a question, sir, a parallel question. Tomorrow it is discovered that there are chemicals, like whatever you call them, in the colors that you use to play Holi. And the Supreme Court passes an order saying that these chemicals get leached onto the soil and are spoiling it. So on the day of Holi, no more color throwing.
Right. Taken your point taken, sir. Ms. Damkewala, now, he's raised a valid point, Mr. Raman. He says that, look at Holi. If we start looking at all these, traditions and cultures, then it's a never-ending process. So how does one address these issues that come up every now and then? Because one cannot, expect the Supreme Court to take all these decisions for, some things that's been happening for years and years.
See, at the outset, the Supreme Court has held that if something is an essential part of a religious custom, it is to be upheld. But from time and again, as far as Jallikattu is concerned, since 2014, the Honourable Supreme Court has specifically said that Jallikattu is not an essential part of the custom, because the intention behind the cultural part of the festival is just it is that bulls were considered sacred, and now in the name of the culture there has been a lot of animal cruelty happening in the name of the culture. So that cannot be considered as an essential part of the custom. Besides, any custom which specifically is cruel towards animal or people or whatever cannot be upheld. Apart from that, Jallikattu is not just dangerous to the bulls and cruel to them, but it poses a danger to people at large also, those people who are participating. So, even if any ordinance is passed, or I would imagine it would be very difficult to get assent from both the houses for the ordinance, even if it is passed in a situation which is supposedly urgent, which it is not.
Okay, all right. You don't think that the situation is urgent, but people in Tamil Nadu, their sentiments really different as far as Jallikattu is concerned, because it has that cultural, traditional connotation to it. Let me once again go back to Prakash. Prakash, the concern that many are talking about is that during these festivities, harm is done to the animal, the bull in this case, at the end of the day.
See, that's what, there is a misconception of harming the animals, and we feel it's our culture and it's our pride, because so many thousands of people and so many lakhs of people will not protest against this if there is something like that, because nobody wants to, like, harm or kill animals here. It is a misconception. So they need to get a more of an understanding about this festival. It is not a festival which happens in your Mexico or your other countries. So please, you have to understand and go to the place, and here we treat our animals like our family, and you need to understand that, and this is our culture, and you need to support the state and respect our culture.
All right, Prakash. Also, Jallikattu has been cancelled before as well. We do know this is not the first time that it's such a decision has been taken, but we're seeing a massive movement this time around. Why this massive movement at this point in time? What are your thoughts on it?
See, now the reach of social media is more, and every information is getting shared even more faster. Like there is a solid touch and base for all the youngsters with the social media. So I feel, there is more awareness, and easily the things could be reached more. Like the social network has been strong now.
That's a valid point, Prakash. Mr. Raman, again, I want to ask the same question that I asked Prakash. The question about stopping cruelty to animals. What do you have to say about that? Because at the end of the day, here's a sport where there is an animal, and there are, there is evidence, there are, it's out in the open, that cruelty to animal, and that's what even the activists are saying at this point in time. It's not about the tradition, it's about the cruelty that is inflicted on the bull during Jallikattu.
I have one query, sir, to all the petitioners and all those who are worried about animal cruelty, as I am. I have a golden retriever. I love my pets. We have had pets for the last God knows what X number of years. I wonder if they have heard of a concept called the rodeo. The rodeo is an American cattle show where horses and cows and sheep are all used to test the ability of various riders, cattlemen, cowboys. This rodeo is popular in America, Canada, Australia, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, a whole host of countries, and everywhere.
Right, sir. In fact,
the animal cruelty associations have lodged their protest, and everywhere it is well regulated.
All right, Mr. Raman. In fact, we're going to talk about bullfighting as well, and show similar cases, because this sport is something which in various shapes and forms is performed in countries all over the world, especially in Europe, Latin America and some other countries. We'll get to that in just a bit. But regarding Jallikattu, let's take a look at the case timeline. It started in 2011 when India's Environment Ministry added bulls to a 1991 ban on training exhibition list, in which there are a lot of other animals as well. Then in April 2014, 3 years later, the government allowed the use of bull in Jallikattu. In May the same year, the Supreme Court judgment said that bulls must not be used We are talking about the year 2014. In fact, moving on, 2 years later, January this year, the centre revoked the ban on Jallikattu. On the 11th, PETA and Bengaluru-based NGO challenged the government's notification in the Supreme Court. It was only on the 12th of January that the Supreme Court stayed the centre's notification, allowing Jallikattu. In fact, while the debate in India rages on the ban on Jallikattu by the Supreme Court, let's take a quick look at bullfighting, the sport which traces its roots to prehistoric bull worship and sacrifice in Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean region. Take a look. Bleeding from wounds on its back, this bull was fought and killed in an event in Medellin, in Colombia. Colombian bullfighter Juan de Castilla was so successful in putting down the bull that the judge rewarded him with the second highest accolade in bullfighting. The 2 ears of the defeated bull, which are sometimes cut off while the animal is still alive. De Castilla is well known in Colombia, and after 3 years of studying the art in Spain, he has been named the strongest promise of Colombian bullfight. For him, bullfighting is also a job that helps him pay bills.
Mi padre es albañil y mi madre no trabaja, entonces no teníamos los recursos suficientes como para decir, venga Juan, lo mandamos para España para que usted se haga torero un año. Imposible. O me sostenían a mí, o pagaban la luz, el alimento y todo lo de la casa.
In Spain, bullfighting or tauromaquia dates back at least 1,000 years and is considered by many as not only a sport but an art form. The event's flamboyant costumes and baying crowds make it one of Spain's most globally recognized traditions. While supporters call it an important cultural landmark, animal rights activists have been campaigning to ban the sport in Spain, Portugal, southern France and some Latin American countries. PETA activists argue that the torture and degradation does not only begin when the bull enters the ring. The bull, before being brought out to the ring, is horribly abused, half-blinded, drugged and kept in a dark box. While Catalonia was the first region in mainland Spain to vote to ban bullfighting, the courts ruled against the ban in 2016. Now, bullfighting has been banned in Canary Islands in Spain, Costa Rica, 3 Mexican cities and in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu. In Pamplona, the annual running of the bull event attracts thousands of revelers from across the world. Bullfighting as an industry contributes to the economies of the countries where it is practiced in a number of ways. Given the long history and widespread spectacle, it remains to be seen whether forces can combine in the 21st century to kill bullfighting off completely. Sana Khan for WION. All right, in fact, let me go across to Ms. Damkewala, who's with me in the studio. Now, you're not just an advocate, but also an animal rights activist. And there are 2 different schools of thought as far as Jallikattu is concerned, or we saw bullfighting. People are, animal rights activists are up in arms. They always talk about animal cruelty, but then there's another school of thought as well. how do you see this, any sport rather, any activity which involves animals and cruelty to animals?
See, in my view, there will always be laws which will try to protect cruelty against animals. However, it has to come from within. If people have to be sensitized to that extent where they understand that a particular sport cannot be played in a manner which inflicts inherent cruelty to the animals. We've seen pictures of Jallikattu. We've seen how the bulls are dragged. It's not just a sport. You are dragging the bulls across the place. You are harming the bulls. We've seen occasions AWBI has actually put forth material before the courts where the bulls have been harmed. People have used knives. People have tied the tails, dragged the bulls. Now, that can't go under the name of sport.
Yeah.
That is pure cruelty. So, there has to be a balance between your rights where you perform a cultural event or a tradition and the rights of any living species. Courts have stepped in only as a parent figure here. There is a concept under law that when a particular category of people, whether it is animals or it may be destitute, it may be homeless people, it may be any category which is not able to speak for itself, there the court steps in as a parent, and as a parent supervises takes care of that group's interest, right, and comes up with a particular ruling which says that you can do this but you cannot do that. But it has to come from within. Now, there will be groups which will support the sport only because it has been performed over a number of years. But what started out as basically worship of a bull,
right,
has
a medieval
now,
practice.
Yes, now it has been reduced to dragging the bull across the street and tying the tail and mutilation.
It's lost its significance, the meaning.
This
right?
was not tradition in any case. And this cannot be a part of tradition. So, there has to be a balance, but any number of laws cannot change the mindset. It can only encourage people to think in a particular way, but finally people have to be sensitized to this to achieve a balance between the two. That is extremely important.
All right. In fact, Mr. Raman would have a different view on that. Let me quickly go and ask him. Sir, we played out a report internationally, how bulls are used in sport as well. Talking specifically about India and taking the case of Jallikattu in Tamil Nadu, you don't agree that bulls are mistreated or ill-treated?
I don't know. I don't think anybody in his sane mind who has invested a couple of lakhs in a bull, a steer bull, which is going to sire him future bulls and cows, will ill-treat the bull to such a degree that he will lose it. It's like killing the goose that lays the golden egg.
All right, all right. Also, Mr. Raman, I also wanted to ask you about a few specific cases that have come to light after the Supreme Court ruling, especially in Madurai, where the SC ban has been violated, and there have been instances where people have nonetheless gone ahead with Jallikattu.
It is the duty of every constitution-abiding, democracy-loving citizen of the country to abide by and honor the sentiments of the Supreme Court. However, we all know the Supreme Court passed orders regarding the Kaveri River. Have they been followed? There are state governments which have gone in defiance of the Supreme Court. Wrong. It is wrong.
Okay, Mr. Raman, do stay with me. Ms. Damkewala, another reaction I want to take in from you. Now, that we've heard on the show as well, different schools of thoughts. But many say and Mr. Raman would in fact agree with that it's not tradition alone, but it's part of the wrong misconceptions of certain people coming in from certain regions. It's actually not bullfighting, they say. It's the, the concept is embracing the bull. So people there using different sort of explanations, different connotations to say that whatever is happening is absolutely legal, it's right, and the Supreme Court has no business, in fact, or anybody has no business to come and intervene in this. Then there's also this political wrangle that we are seeing in Tamil Nadu between the DMK and the AIDMK. So a lot of factors you think at play at one time?
Yes, I believe so. This is more a political I will not go as far as to call it a gimmick, because we understand that with some people there are sentiments attached to it. However, material has been placed before the courts that bulls are actually mistreated and dragged across and mutilated and hurt just to increase the excitement level of the game. Now, that is something that
provoke them,
to provoke them,
make
to
them
increase
aggressive.
the entertainment value. Now, bulls cannot be subject to entertainment. That has been upheld. There are notifications. Even if there were no notifications, it is a very inherent thing. How can you torture and mutilate an animal? You drag it across just to increase the entertainment value for a particular day. How does it matter what you think of the bull the remaining part of the year, if you are going to subject the animal to this kind of treatment? Laws step in and the courts step in only when something is really wrong. They do not step in to say, okay, we will not have, you cannot celebrate Diwali anymore. Yes, they may put a cracker ban because of the implications, but it will not go in as far as possible. It refrains.
Right.
If it is interfering, then there is a particular reason and need why it is interfering.
So you're saying the court always looks and passes decisions, orders, judgments within reasonable grounds.
Yes. So it discriminates between what matters to interfere in and what matters not to interfere with. What is happening is basically a willful disobedience of the court's orders. And that is more or less politically motivated. Yes, the social media has acted up in garnering a particular view. So you have two sides. You have people who want to perform the Jallikattu thing. You have people who are against it.
Right.
So this is all basically motivated, I would say.
All right. On that note, Ms. Jasmine Damkewala, thanks so much for joining us this evening and sharing your thoughts. I'd also like to thank Mr. G.V. Prakash and Mr. Mohan Raman for joining me this evening on the show. The debate continues, it rages on. We'll see what happens in the next few hours or days to come as far as Jallikattu is concerned. But for now, it seems a lot of factors at play, political and otherwise, as far as Jallikattu is concerned. We're taking a short break. Lots more to talk about on the other side. We talk about what James Mattis, Donald Trump's pick for Defense Secretary, has said about India and what it signals about India's position under the new administration post-January 20th. We also talk about the new audio clipping of Brazen Chief of Jamaat-ud-Dawa, Hafiz Saeed. Stay tuned to Gravitas. Be right back.